Hey guys, welcome back. As always, my name is Leyzar, and today, my friends, we're gonna spend a bit of time talking about Lost Ark. Now, my experience is in close to the closed beta, in which I played about 56 hours in total, spammed across 7 different classes. Now, I focused on the purest new player free-to-play experience, even though the technical alpha or the closed beta gave you a bunch of power passes that you can use, so you can insta-level your character to level 50. It gave you these credits that you can make your character look cool, buy skins and all whatnot. None of that was used. This was a true free-to-play run with all the classes that presented interest to me. Now, of course, unfortunately, time is running out. I'm literally staring at the clock. The closed beta is gonna end in about 20 minutes, which is why I need to do this, but we'll continue on our journey at another time. First of all, for those of you who are just curious, is the game actually good and is it worth playing? For my two very humble sense, 120%. This has been an absolutely amazing experience. It's been quite a long time ever since I was this impressed by a game. At its core, this is not a free-to-play game. Lost Ark was initially launched at the end of 2018. I believe it was December 2018 in Korea. Then it was launched in Japan and Russia. In those countries, the servers are up and running. I believe they are already in Season 2. It's only coming now to Europe and North America through Amazon Games. And yes, I know, Amazon Games. That causes a lot of eyebrows to twitch, but up until this point, everything has been fine. Let's talk just a little bit about the business model. From what I've seen in the technical alpha, I have seen basically no evidence whatsoever of a pay-to-win business model. Not that there will be a whole lot of to-win things. I can't really discuss any further because there are heavy business model differences from region to region, so that will have to be judged on release. But from what I can tell, there is no reason for a game such as this to be pay to win when it can carry its own weight in gold when it comes to cosmetic skins for your mounts, your pets, your weapons, your characters, basically whatever. So thumbs up on that one, and again, we'll have to wait on release to see exactly how Amazon decides to monetize the game. But again, I am thinking cosmetics, that's basically it, and perhaps a couple of boosters here and there to limit the amount of time you need to grind for things. That said, the lore of the game, main story plot wise, was definitely enjoyable. 110% worth playing through. If I have a gripe with, I have a gripe with the side quests. The side quests were all generic. Hey, kill 2 rabbits, or bring me 3 wolf claws, or something like that. Now, Lost Ark does a good job of understanding what it actually is. It is a breed, a half-breed, a hybrid, if you will, between a multiplayer online, an MMO, and an ARPG. What kind of ARPG? If you guys play Diablo, if you guys play Diablo 2 free and something like Path of Exile, or perhaps even Torchlight 2, this is that style of game, but with a whole lot of MMO elements. So it's best to think of Lost Ark as a love child between World of Warcraft and Diablo, because basically most similarities to those two games. It has most similarities to those two games. A bit of background on myself though, so you can understand from what kind of a player you are getting this perspective on. Been gaming for about 20 years and I am big on World of Warcraft, or was up until Cataclysm. I got about 6 years worth of playing in that. I am a big Diablo fanboy. I played thousands and thousands of hours in Diablo 2, in Diablo 3 afterwards. Never really got into PoE. Even though I tried on several occasions, PoE was never really all that appealing to me on a personal level, even though most of my friends do still play PoE. So this one, in terms of combat, in terms of animation, since we're on gameplay, it's amazing, honestly. The fluidity of the gameplay and how it works and functions together is basically my #1 reason for recommending this game. They somehow managed to marry nicely the ARPG super fluid mechanics with the MMO, wait, click this, select this, buy this, do that kind of thing. Now, it's not as fast and as streamlined as a classic ARPG, but it's definitely nowhere near as slow as a traditional MMO, traditional third-person MMO. One thing that should be very clearly mentioned, if you're not into isometric views, you're not really gonna like this one because it follows the traditional isometric ARPG view. Getting back a little bit to gameplay, the classes, you got plenty of classes. In the technical alpha, 17 were available to us. On live, there are more. Of these 17s, only 15 are actual classes because 2 of them overlap in the sense that when you have your male class, the striker, for example this one, which was my first class and I enjoyed it highly, it overlaps with the female version of the striker, which is called War Dancer. Now there are nuances and subtle differences between the two, but 98% is basically the same class. So 2 of the classes have that overlap feature going on. The second overlap would be the female gunslinger versus the male Deadeye. Again, basically the same class, up to 98% with slight differences here and there. Getting back to the main story of the game, the main plot, it's really hard for me to touch on it without spoiling anything for you guys, but rest assured it does have a few key epic moments which I'm betting you will enjoy nicely. Getting back to the classes at hand, my objective here during the limited time that we had with the beta, was like, what, 7 days, something like that, was to try as many classes as humanly possible without any boosters, without being helped, just simply grab a class, go for the game free-to-play style, because I know a lot of you guys simply want to play this one for free-to-play. And as you can see, I got a little bit done. I got the Paladin on 32, I got myself a Mage, a Summoner Mage, a subclass Summoner, I got a Sharpshooter, a Striker, a Scrapper, and a Shadow Hunter. And to be honest, I liked all of the classes. Of course, I have my favorites. For example, I never been a mage guy. I never really liked in any MMO or any ARPG playing a wizard or a mage or a warlock type of character. But in this one, it was definitely the best experience. The mage has very interesting mechanics. They synergize beautifully well together. They vary between instant cast, casting times. You can move during cast, which is really cool if you pick the right upgrade. And of course, you also have summons that can come out and help you. Again, this will apply to the summoner subclasses. There are additional subclasses to the mage class, but this one was the one that I enjoy the least, even though it is a mage, and historically speaking, for me, mages were never really something I enjoyed playing. Not that they're not great, it's just not my kind of thing. Next, we're gonna move on to the Shadow Hunter. Now, the Shadow Hunter, from my point of view, is the ideal starting class. If you're just looking to get into Lost Ark right now, this is a super high-paced class which is based off of cooldowns, is extremely flamboyant, AoE ability, single target as well. It looks amazing, it sounds amazing, the upgrades for the skill are also awesome. It's tanky enough and deals tons and tons of damage. And if you guys want to see some actual gameplay, just so you can get a feel for the class, link to the cards right now. And link in the cards for the mage gameplay as well, just so you can get a better feel for it. As you can see, this is not the type of scripted video. I'm just going off of strictly my own feelings. It is not sponsored in any way, shape, or form. These are my 2 cents on the game, and I got a couple of my friends to tell you what they think on the game as well. Moving past that, the Paladin. I always loved the Paladin in World of Warcraft. I think I got at least 3-4 years playing Paladin alone, back when mains were actually mains, you know, and before everything moved on to an account level. It has that Paladin feeling, you know, the user of the light. This is 1 or 2 classes which can support, the other one is Bard. This one can heal your party, can offer some shields. It's legitimately that holy-ish Paladin feeling, but it's the only Paladin that I felt was a bit more savage, a bit more in your face, gonna attack and all of that good stuff. Now granted, he doesn't do as much damage as pure damage classes, and in Lost Ark everybody can deal damage, even the supports essentially can deal damage, since you don't really have the whole Holy Trinity thing. And that's very important because you don't have because you will be having multiplayer dungeon up to 4 players and raids as well. If I remember correctly, raids are either 4, 8 or 16 players. And again, without the Holy Trinity, it's very interesting to see how all this will work. In 4-player dungeons, something that we played consistently, because almost every single zone has its own little unique dungeon that you can play on normal or hard, at least at the beginning. It was an amazing and awesome experience, and I cannot wait to get back into it. So if you're looking for the classic Paladin experience, just with a touch of Savage, go for the Paladin. I love my experience, and this is, or has been up until this point, my quote-unquote main. Now, do you guys like playing Hunter? Now, the traditional Hunter archetype is something like, hey, I got a bow and I'm shooting stuff. In Lost Ark, they take it to a whole new level, right? You got all sorts of guns, one-handed guns, two-handed guns, I tried the sharpshooter out because it seemed to me like more the traditional hunter experience, but boy was I ever wrong. This was one of the most highly enjoyable classes I played in the closed beta. It has tons of abilities, from charge up abilities that deal a truck of damage to agile, standard, evasive, fire looking thing. Even the attacks, the auto attacks for each and every single class, not just for the sharpshooter, are flamboyant. But on a negative side, the basic attacks don't seem to do much for most of the classes. They really rely on you using your abilities, and as you probably know, you got 8 abilities to use at all time. Definitely a cool class. I highly recommend the sharpshooter if you're into that traditional hunter experience. Now, the first class I actually played was the striker. Oh man, I wanted to play the striker because in the intro, when you create a class, it looks so flamboyant. It looked like this martial artist with all sorts of abilities, wonderful kicks, and all classes are over the top. All classes are flamboyant as all hell. And you know what? The striker did not disappoint. This is still one of the most funnest classes I have played. Honestly. I mean, you just kick people all over the place, you knock them around. There's tons and tons of AoE to be had and all sorts of cool moves. And of course, the longer you play, the more you understand that there are certain combos between your abilities, certain synergies that will be fantastically, will be perfect to go together. For example, you dash in with one ability, you do a little bit of AoE, knocking foes to the ground, then you go on top, do some extra bit of damage to the foes knocked on the ground. It's really a super agile experience. Now, you might think this is close to the World of Warcraft monk or the Diablo monk, but in actuality, the class that I found to be more closest to the monk was the Soul Fist. Soul Fist is a subclass of the martial artist, just like Striker is. In the technical alpha, Soul Fist was only available as a female, for the record. I didn't get to play that, I only tried it in the class tester, like you can try all the classes. That one had what was, from my point of view, the most silliest energy mechanic. Basically, you could spam abilities for as long as you want. The abilities would regain, the energy would slowly build back up again without you having to do anything per se. But the thing is, if you ever went to zero, it was kind of like an overheat mechanic. If you ever went to zero energy, then you would have to wait until the energy gets back to full so you can restart spamming your abilities. And for me, in a fast-paced action game such as this one, that is a bit of a major no-no. I don't want to get punished for that. But again, that will lead to some skilled gameplay. Keeping an eye on your energy meter and making sure it never rounds out. Speaking of energy, I did play the Scrapper. Now, the Scrapper was very interesting to me because it has two energies. Essentially, you got your shock energy and your stamina. Spending abilities that require stamina will bring up your shock energy, and your shock energy, as you probably might expect, is essentially the big bada boom cooldown, something that theoretically does more damage, are more impactful, more AoE, that kind of thing. But also, the stamina itself is generated by shock energy, get it? As well as the stamina generates itself over time, so it's actually a balancing act going into combat, charging in full blast into combat, and seeing what exactly skills I'm gonna be using so I can keep up my energy levels depending on what I want to do. And it's gonna be different from clearing mobs to doing a boss, and from just simply questing around. So it was really interesting from a resource point of view. And that's pretty much it. That's the 54 hours I played on these classes, and honestly, after all that time, I can only give the game a thumbs up and a huge recommendation. However, it's not all sunshine and roses. There are a couple of negative aspects to the game. First of all, in the technical alpha, I don't know how it is on live, but in the alpha you don't even have basic controls when it comes to video settings, and that is huge to me. For example, there is no frame limiter. Having no frame limiter in the game means your video card is gonna go full blast no matter how many frames your display is capable of showing. For example, the video card can be running at 200 FPS while your display can only show 60. Now, there is a quick workaround for that for those of you guys that are using an NVIDIA card. It's simple. You go into NVIDIA control panel, you add the program, and you limit the frame rate, or you activate VSync. Yes, VSync is not available as an option. And of course, if you're using an AMD card, I do believe that your software has something similar to that. In other aspects, it also seems to have a problem going full screen. If I go full screen mode and I'll tab, many times the game simply crashes straight out of nowhere without any sort of warning. Now, I don't really want to complain too much about these things because this is, and I quote, a technical alpha, and I'm hoping in the full game all these issues will be resolved. On the plus side, and this is a huge plus side for me, it does have full ultra-wide support, and playing the game in a 21:9 aspect ratio has been an absolute treat. So if you guys are using ultra-wide, thumbs up, we can get to have full support for that one. In terms of graphics quality, this is a very subjective cup of tea. Do you like how it looks? Do you not like how it looks? Do you like the style, the graphics, and how the developer is approaching things, since this is a Korean game? For me, definitely. I love it. But again, it's subjective if you're gonna like this style or not. In terms of how the game ran smoothly as long as I kept it in borderless. I had no problems, no needless crashes or anything of the sort, and for the most part a 2070 Super was keeping a 3440 x 1440 resolution at a solid 60 FPS with everything absolutely maxed without any problem whatsoever. I'm gonna have to retest when it goes live to see if there's any technical problems. Outside of that, there are a few minor annoyances when it comes to gameplay. For example, this game has no verticality, which is a bit weird. Now, don't get me wrong, you will come to sections where you have to press the action key and the character will jump a ledge or jump down a ledge, but in actual gameplay, for example, let's say you guys are familiar with Diablo. The barbarian there has a leap, and that leap, for example, can be used to jump off of ledges or onto ledges. No such thing here. Even though many of your characters will have abilities that jump way up into the air, a ledge this big, and I kid you, this big will stop them in its tracks. And that is just a little bit jarring when it comes to average everyday gameplay. That's one thing. Another thing would be the social aspect of the game, which I haven't really experienced all that much. You can add your friends by their account, so you can see when they're online. You gotta add friends on a character by character basis, which again can get a little bit annoying. Something which I have not tried in the game, I have not tried the PvP aspect. From what I understood, it is upkept, it is maintained, it is a decent scene when it comes to the player versus player, but that is simply something I am not interested in when it comes to a game such as this. I'm interested in the PvE, the questing aspect, the dungeons, the raids, that kind of thing. But rest assured, it does have full-blown PvP. Of course, you can trade with other players, you can buy and sell items, there are several currencies that you can use, and I do believe that is pretty much it. I'm gonna wrap up with a glowing recommendation for Lost Ark. It is currently live, so if you guys want to hop over to the Russian servers, you can do that. You can have the client in full-blown English. The one issue that I have noticed is the fact that the voiceovers will be in Russian, and I think you can change them to Korean though, if that fits more your style. Now, of course, I'm just one man with one single opinion, and I'm pretty sure I left out plenty of things since this is not scripted and all whatnot, but I want to introduce you to my friends who also play this game with me and what they have to say on the matter. This is my friend Sober. Say hello, Sober.
Hello, I'm Sober.
Tell us, buddy, what you think on the game?
Oh, I love gameplay. Gameplay is so smooth, so fluid. Abilities are very well thought out. They flow very nicely together. Character design is great, both from gameplay perspective, from visuals, which look great, both on abilities, which leave great marks on the ground, destroy some of the visual terrain and such. Visually absolutely stellar. Gameplay fantastic. Dungeons are great mechanically. There are some really cool stuff happening there. Overall, love the game. For now, from what I see, I got to level about 31 or something on highest character. So it's definitely not endgame, but still, love the game so far.
Thank you, Sober. What about you, Vicky? What do you think of the game?
I absolutely love it. It's great. The abilities go smoothly together. You can see, you can feel the go-to personality of the character. Well, not personality, but personality of the powers the character has. They're very prominent. And the game is not really forcing, from what I've seen at least to my character level 33, the game is not really forcing you into buying anything from what I've seen, even though we were able to get things since it's a closed beta, and of course they wanted us to test the things we can buy. Dungeons are just awesome, and it doesn't diminish if you're going solo or multi, though it feels way better if you're going with your friends and you're just wrecking the boss together. The game is just wonderful. I love it. Also, the hidden quests
Oh
and
yeah, that was
hidden
cool.
keys
Yeah.
are great. It's so satisfying the first time you see that you found like some hidden area.
It's such a simple mechanic. It is not a huge reward or anything of the sort, but just the idea of finding a map to a secret dungeon is oddly satisfying. But we're getting into heavy specifics. My friends, this was an amazing experience. I'm really glad I got to partake in the closed beta. For the record, I did not receive it for free or anything like that. I simply bought into it over on Steam. I'm gonna thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you had an enjoyable time. I hope you liked what you saw, and I hope this helped you to get a better clue about Lost Ark. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Say bye, guys. Hey, bye.
Bye.
Bye!